and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which I find out just how little I know about economics. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and joining me tonight, special guests, plural, Ranting Monkey, and in human form. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good evening.
So happy to have you guys on. This is a first. It's as far as I can recall, this is the first three-way TED Excellence. So,
oh really?
Yeah.
Tempting it was for me to just unmute myself during your opening.
I do know how tempting it was. I do know how tempting it was. What would you have done?
I want some. I would have just made jokes about how I unmuted myself. I just want credit for being a good boy.
You are a good boy. You're the best boy.
Yeah, and not all the time.
Okay,
but this time I was.
You're a mid boy.
That's fair enough.
That's the new slang I'm learning on the Twitter sphere. The mid
boy.
Average, so calling something mid. Yeah. Oh, we are developing in language, especially in definitions. We'll get to that later, I'm sure, over the course of this presentation. So, hello everyone. Hope you're all doing well on this Thursday. It's not Thursday. Wait, it's Monday. I'm so just rote memory. This is a special Monday edition because of scheduling. Human Form is here with us because of, well, here's the story. Tall Person, who I believe is in the audience, recommended this TEDx to me because it was a member of the Young Turks. And I don't know if she was a member of the Young Turks at the time this presentation was made in 2019, but she is now. And as soon as I saw it had something to do with the economy, I was like, uh-oh. Who do I know that knows economics better than I do? At least, partially. And first thought in my head was Inhuman Form and Ranting Monkey. And so I made a joke about Formy being my favorite communist. And he's like,
I'm not a communist, though.
I know. I say you're my favorite communist. I said that you were a communist.
That's right. That's right.
That's just it.
Anarchist, if anything.
Oh, that's great. Boy, you and Monkey are going to get along great tonight. It's going to be wonderful. And then, of course, thankfully, and I'm very glad that Monkey made the time to pop in, too, because this is going to be great. This is going to be interesting. I don't know what's going to happen here. I might have to stay out of the way if these two end up sparring over things.
I don't think I've ever actually met you, Ranting Monkey, so happy to meet you.
No, good to meet you. I don't remember ever meeting you. I had watched your stuff, though.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how we differ on this lady. I have seen this talk before.
Ah, okay.
So I have vague memories of her, but because this is like the one from 2018, 19, somewhere around there.
I believe it's 2019.
Yeah. So I have seen this one a couple of years ago when it first came out. So
all right.
If I remember her, she actually is a Oh wait. Sorry. Social.
Yeah, don't ruin it for me. I haven't watched it.
I'm not. I don't mean to. But
I mean, a member of the Young Turks being no, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Okay, guys. So a couple of things. First,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say they tend to be pretty mid, if anything. I mean, they're just moderates, or in my eyes, at least.
All right, so everybody in the chat, a couple things first. Since we are in a bit of a time crunch because of scheduling, I'm going to forego the hellos. Just please forgive me. Hello to everybody. But before we get into all that, first and foremost, Matt Barnes, thank you so much. Monkey is the very goodest of the good boys.
Yeah.
If you say so. If you say so. This is Kyle. Thank you so much. Hello, chat people, Scribbles, Monkey, and Inhuman. Well, he's not inhuman. He's in space human. I always have to make that. That's why I call him Formy. Kind of don't make it sound like I'm insulting the guy.
That's the joke, right?
It has become one. And Keeverdam, thank you so much. You just went live on our end. What? Have I been silent this whole time? Wait. What happened?
It went up. No, it's when I went over there to grab the chat, you were already live. That was right after we started, so.
Oh,
she might just be having a lag.
Oh, okay. Huh. All right. Well, hope everybody caught that. Hopefully everything's on the playback. Thank you, Verdam. And thank you, Snubber. 3-way with men and a monkey. CDC Nightmare. And yes, they censor Monk plus E. You're kidding me. Okay, well, thank you, YouTube. But yeah, so this is a talk from a now member of TYT. And funnily enough, Formy is himself a Young Turk. Not in the political faction persuasion, but just in a literal sense.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to go. But either way, okay, enough with the preamble. Bingo card tonight is bingo card B. B as in I don't know, Bolshevik. Sure, why not? And also, I'm going to pin, thank you, Keeverdam, the GoFundMes to our friends Shady Grin, Angry Illinoisian, and his kitten to the top of the chat box. If you guys could take a look at that when you have a chance. They, their friends, and family could certainly use your help if you have a couple of bucks to spare. But with all that being said, let's get right into it. Let's see. Oh, holy cats. Keeverdam, what the heck? Thank you so much. Sorry, guess it was just me. I'm sadly still second shift. Also, GoFundMe. Yes, I got him. Thank you, Keeverdam. And you guys, thank you so much. I don't know what to tell you. I'd find a way to pay this forward. Zizi Antawari, greetings from my rescued Penicillata marmoset monkey. She's listening on my shoulder. You have a pet monkey on your shoulder? Does it, like, do tasks for you and, like, poison dates against your enemies like an Indiana Jones? That's probably too deep a cut for some people. Thank you, Zizi. Appreciate it. All right. So let's get into it. This clocks in at just over 15 minutes. Let's begin and see what we got. Oh, I promise the volume goes down. The applause is ridiculously loud, and then it goes back down.
People living in the United States, the wealthiest country on Earth, are unhappy with their material conditions.
Are we?
There's some studies that show unhappiness.
I guess it depends on your place in the tax bracket to begin with, though. So.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you guys just start talking and I'll pause. It's fine if you have something to say. Don't wait for me.
We have more than enough resources to make everyone entirely comfortable, but under our current economic system, many people's most basic needs are not met. If the purpose of the economy is to manage resources and organize labor to meet our material wants and needs, the economy is not realizing its purpose.
Do we actually have all the resources necessary to make everybody comfortable? I hear that said so many times, and I don't believe that that's necessarily true, but I don't know.
I think we have a pretty substantial amount of natural resources for, specifically in our country. But I mean, obviously, I think most countries would need some level of trade to some extent.
Define comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. It's a subjective thing, especially depending on one's health situation, age, and so on. Okay.
It is failing. What is going so terribly wrong?
Your
Let's
understanding
analyze
of economy. Stop it for a second. Economy is just the getting resources going to market and being sold and stuff. There's no point to it unless you make a point to it. She starts off with the premise that the point of an economy is to make everybody have everything that they need and stuff. That is a socialist view of what the economy is for.
For me.
Yeah, it's definitely a socialist perspective on what an economy is supposed to be, for sure. And she is wrong about one thing, and coming at it from a different perspective, I guess, is that she says something along the lines of our government, or whatever it was that she said, is not meeting our material needs because it's not organized in a fashion to do so. And that is true, but that's because it's not our government's intention to meet our needs, in my opinion. It was never, not in this country.
All right.
Is going so terribly wrong. Let's analyze a basic example of production. Let's say we have a company, they produce something, we will call it widgets. We have some made-up currency that only has value because you and I agree it does right now. It's called US dollars. I'm just kidding, we'll call it coins. You have a widget shop owner and a worker. The worker is paid a wage of 10 coins an hour. And they're pretty good. They make about 20 widgets every hour or 140 widgets in a day. Widgets are sold for 6 coins each. Subtract raw materials and operating costs for a profit of about 5 coins per widget.
Wait, time out. What fucking business is this? What business makes anything and has a 500% markup?
Pharmaceutical industry.
Maybe. The average markup of a good in the United States is about 7%.
Okay.
That's it, 7%. So if it cost one coin to make, it would be worth, on selling it on the market, you'd sell it for 1.07. And in her, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. No. That is just nonsense.
Yeah, there's nothing to apologize for. This is the whole point. All right.
No business works this way.
In a day, the worker is paid 80 coins. They make 140 widgets with their own two hands. And then the owner sells these widgets and after labor costs makes 620 coins in a day. To make that money...
This is why why I just stopped it a moment ago is important. That right there, like, look how much they made. That's not even close to what they would have made. Not even close. And this is still admitting that several people who run businesses make a very decent living off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to jack it up 500% to pretend that you might have a problem. This is one of the problems I have with people like her. Just be honest about it.
It's kind of not an absurd, but what do they call it? Reductio absurdum, like kind of making a ridiculous argument. It is if the number, you don't have to inflate the numbers to make this argument
exactly.
a good argument.
All right, well, just real quick, I'm going to go to the bingo card because I think we've already covered a couple of things here. I'm going to circle systemic institutional because I think that's inherent to what we're talking about on the deal. I don't know. I mean, her example is absurd. I don't know if it technically becomes either weightless or contradictory yet because she hasn't really made her argument, I suppose. But you guys might have to tell me that one. And I'm also going to circle wage gap because I think that's coming up here pretty quick, if not already. And free space just on reflex. So far, guys, I have on the bingo card. Remember, bingo card B, systemic, institutional, free space, and wage gap. I'm sure there will be plenty more as we go, but I might wait until the end of the show to do most of the other review to save some time. All right.
What work did the owner do? None. And what is the definition of getting things for free?
Yes, Monkey.
What work did the owner do? If you're talking about that day on the factory floor, nothing. But they did buy the resources. They did pay the electricity bill. They did do the marketing. They did do the salesmanship of it. All of this stuff that the guy who just made the widget didn't do is still getting done. And it's the owner who made all of that happen. The owner who bought the building, who pays rent for it if it's not actually his outright, who does pay the labor, who pays the insurance, who pays for heat, who pays for all of it. They didn't do anything. That's absurd.
Real quick. Thank you, Keldrig. Honest, that is so capitalist of you, Monk. How dare you?
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, I would say you're right. The owner did do that, and he did pay for the advertising and all of the stuff that the laborer isn't doing. However, there's nothing that says that a group of laborers couldn't do that either. Anybody could do that if they had the capital, or the means.
Well, there's also the quotient of talent and skill. I mean, anybody can be handed a bunch of money.
Talent and skill is in the labor. That's the product. The talent and skill is in the labor. That's the product.
Have you ever tried to sell somebody something before, face to face on a cold call?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, there's talent involved. That's labor. That is labor.
For sure. Yeah, no question about that. I'm saying like that person, he or she is a person as well, the owner. So there's an unnecessary hierarchy. I'm assuming that if she is arguing for socialism, that there is, or I guess even socialism has some hierarchies, but I'm arguing from an anarchist perspective, as that there is an unnecessary hierarchy there if you're considering looking at it from outside of a capitalist perspective. Obviously, in capitalism, totally makes sense. Yeah.
Doing no work yourself to earn them. This is how corporations make profits, paying workers less per hour than their labor is worth. To be productive, we need things. We need resources, tools, machinery, land, the means of production. A small group of people own almost all of the means of production. The rest of us who do not have them do not have the ability to be productive on our own accord.
Stop.
To do
30 million small businesses. 30 million. 10% of the entire population, and it just can't be done. No, it's nonsense. Now, are there people who don't have resources? Absolutely. But just like the people who have built up, saved up, made their own businesses, you have to have a plan and you have to actually follow through with it. You have to put your ass on the line instead of going, well, I got hired in here, so I should have a say in how the business is run. It can be done. It's done every day. Sorry.
Why are you apologizing?
Because I keep interrupting to have a little rant, and I don't mean to be ranting on your show.
Okay, okay. First and foremost, interrupting me? Oh my gosh!
Look,
interrupting.
You conditioned me to apologize when I interrupt you.
That's a good boy. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? All right. Well, first. All right. Any response for me?
No, I agree. I mean, I think that I agree with her and what you said, Ranting Monkey, in the sense that you do put yourself on the line, and in fact, I think that if any business is to be supported, it is small businesses, obviously, but I think more so in this argument, the focus is clearly on transnational corporations that are, in fact, stealing opportunities from the small businesses, is what I'm gathering, at least.
I guess we'll see what she says.
So, we must sell our labor. It has become normalized for a company to purchase a person for a given amount of time, control what they do in that time and how they present themselves, and take ownership.
That's a job!
Yeah.
Not even a fucking job!
Yeah, if I go and it's like, what will the job entail? Here's your job description. I agree to do this. I'm not
normalized.
It's become normalized.
This is an anarchist position, like 100% wage slave. I mean, I 100% stand by this personally, but I understand that even in slavery, slaves legitimized slavery, so it makes sense. But I mean,
well, can I ask you a question?
Just the way it's been. Yes.
Because you mentioned earlier that with the boss owning it, that's nothing that the workers couldn't have done themselves.
Of course.
Under that kind of system, right? You have your collective. Wouldn't you still be 8 hours a day? You have to do this work.
It depends on what you're doing. I mean, obviously, work has to be done, but there could be a substantial amount of delegation and better organization. Just like even in a capitalist business, it's the same thing. Certain businesses are run better than others, just naturally. But I think that if one person has incentive for that business to not necessarily, or if they don't benefit from it running efficiently in any way, they don't have to focus on its efficiency. And by efficiency, I don't mean in terms of what they're gaining from it, but necessarily efficiency for the worker. Is it going to be better for the worker in the sense of efficiency?
Okay.
Everything they make while they're working. But we have to participate in this system because we need to earn money in order to purchase the basic necessities. And when we spend our money on rent, water, and food, the money's just going right back to the owners of corporations. In our economy, the working class must do labor for someone else to profit off of in order to survive. This is called wage slavery.
Jesus Christ.
Can I bring something up? Can I bring something up real quick before we continue on? Because this is a really important thing, honestly, and I have to bring this up because it does sound ridiculous, I know, because we all have jobs and everything. But I mean, the expression "wage slave" is one with like a very rich history. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean like you said that don't we have to work? Yeah, we absolutely have to work. But you know, to be a wage slave is different than just working because, I mean, in the 19th century, if you go back and look, there was a serious workers' movement against societies that were the society that was industrializing and capitalism was becoming more so similar to what it is now, slowly, obviously, but people felt it was ridiculous. It was completely preposterous to be working extended amounts of hours for somebody else. It was unheard of at the time, and there was a organization of labor protesters called the Lowell Mill Girls, which is where the name, I believe, wage slavery comes from, who fought, you know, for the 8-hour, them and other groups that were organized who fought for the 8-hour workday. I mean, prior to this, and these were anarchists. Prior to this, there was exploitation of labor on so many levels, which was something that was new. Obviously, we're seeing this, and it's cyclical, and it's happening again. And this is within a capitalist system.
This is
So
before a lot of the
rich.
labor controls that have been put in place since then.
And have been deregulated as well since the 1980s.
To what effect?
What do you mean?
I mean, we still have the 40-hour work week. Past that, you end up with overtime paid. The exceptions, of course, being, you know, waitresses and such. Where is the comparison of today's labor market to the early 19th century?
The comparison is that one way or another, you're renting yourself out, and people are not necessarily okay with that if they're not paid accordingly. And the comparison is probably more drastic to make now, because if you see all of the increases in prices on everything except for the prices that the average worker is being paid. I'm not saying that anybody should be handed anything, because that would make the argument that there should be a vanguard party controlling where these funds are allocated, which I am also against. However, I do believe that workers should be paid accordingly.
How do you get to a fair system if nobody's in charge? How do you do that?
Well, you got to organize. It's been done in a number of ways, and we see it, for example, in slightly less complex ways. But you know, you can see it through Spain in the 1930s, through the revolution. Smaller communities, of course, and it can be done in smaller. But this is like states, for example, municipalities, libraries, for example, which are not complete societies, but those are practically anarchist in a sense. The organization structure, or one that's really important, in my opinion, if you ask me, is Alcoholics Anonymous. Is essentially has no leadership whatsoever. It functions with minimal rules, and it's one of the largest organizations that does that sort of a thing. It's practically anarchist. I mean, there are ways. You don't need a paternalistic overlord to organize. I mean, you're essentially making an argument for government then.
Well, I do believe in government.
Of course, yeah.
I think it should be limited.
But it has the burden to prove itself legitimate.
Who decides it's legitimate, though?
You know, you have to do that through participatory democracy, obviously.
The people participating, right? And so if the workers who are participating in the system and haven't just gone out and done their own thing, are they not just as complicit as the people that they're... To me, I'm sorry, it comes off sounding like whining. They're not giving me the money that they're making. Well, you're also not doing anything different to make yourself any more money. These are people who, for the most part, the people who are millionaires today didn't start out millionaires. They built a business. And this woman is telling me now that what we really need to do is give those businesses to the people who were working there, making the widgets, because the guy who put all of the resources into making this business didn't do anything.
Sorry, I had to mute my mic because my dog was barking. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. He has a vested interest in keeping the business going, where they are like, I'm just here to make a little bit of money. I'm selling my wages. And I'm supposed to believe that if you give them control of it, they're going to care as much about the business as he does. Because.
So
what don't understand.
That you're saying? I'm sorry.
I don't understand how you see a system where the workers take control of this actually working out. If there's nobody in charge, how does it function?
Well, obviously, people have duties. It's kind of delegated in a sense.
Okay.
You're arguing against human cooperation here, which has been substantiated through years of evolutionary psychology.
No, I'm not arguing against cooperation, but even cooperation, you have a hierarchy.
Of course, yeah, I'm not arguing against any hierarchy. I'm just saying any hierarchical form of authority, any form of authority within any contrived hierarchy has to have the burden of proof for the greater good of that group of people. If it's not good, just like a democracy, essentially. However, that's corrupted in a certain sense in contemporary times.
Let's go on with the video. I'm sure there's going to be more to argue about.
Oh no, I'm positive. We've still got 12 minutes to go.
Yeah. Let's see what else she has to say.
Right on.
Come on, lady.
Oh, she took a pause
in our
there
economy.
for a clap.
Oh, was that a expected audience applause
I'm
line?
guessing so. She was quiet there for a while.
That was. Let me back up just a couple seconds to see what she was saying. Oh wait, that's still in it. Oh my God.
Is called wage slavery.
Oh, she said wage slavery at a college. That's why. Okay.
In our economy,
Embarrassing.
we do not work together. We work for those who own the means of production.
Wait, was she waiting for? Wait, wage slavery is meant to be an applause line, or is she just trying to make a dramatic point?
I think that's supposed to be an applause line. A dramatic point. You don't wait that long.
Unless you have just a bad.
That
sense
was
of time,
Kelly Bundy coming on the screen long. Jesus.
All right.
We can observe this on a macro level.
Okay.
Gross domestic products, the total dollar value of goods and services we produce as a country in 1 year, increased steadily over the past 50 years. Yet,
Yes.
our wages are decreasing and have been for the past 50 years. So workers are extremely productive but are not receiving the money made off of their productivity. So where is it going? Over
Pause
the
that for a
past
second.
50 years.
That part is true, and that is a valid criticism of what, up until coming out of COVID, because wages have gone way up coming out of COVID, that was a valid criticism. There were a lot of companies who were just either sitting on profit or dumping it into R&D, which was the name of their yacht. So there is valid criticism there. I want to give her credit where due.
Okay.
I think this is what I was bringing up earlier as well, where the price of everything else has inflated significantly over the last 40 years, except for wages.
All right.
Over the past 50 years, profit margins for corporation owners increased substantially. People.
Now I need you to pause. That may be true, but there's also a big difference over the last 40 years of the kind of products that have been made and sold.
Yes, the internet, non-tangible products, all types of different services and things that are, the means of production is different.
A house is always a house.
True.
Same size house. Houses, for example, have increased, I believe, something like 300%. I can't remember if that's exact, but a house is always a house. Sure, they do get slightly more technologically advanced and so on.
Oh,
But I
and
mean,
people wanting
wage
chat brings
increases only increased like 7%. So that just seems a little bit unbalanced.
and that is a point, but there's also, as in pointed out in chat, automation has also gone off the charts over the last decade alone. Holy crap.
Work more and more, produce more and more, and make less and less, while owners of corporations make more profit and use this money to get even wealthier. Quite perplexingly, this all does not mean that our economic system is broken.
Could have fooled me the way you're presenting it, but what
Right.
do I know? Yeah.
It is in fact functioning as intended. The definition of capitalism is an economic and political system in which trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit. Think about what this system has led to.
You standing on that stage? Oh.
The greatest innovations in human history.
I would not credit that to the system. You can't credit that to the system.
What would you credit it to?
I would credit it to a human evolution, just industrialization, if anything. I mean, capitalism didn't come up with the ideas. These are ideas come from somewhere. They come from people. And a lot of the ideas, in fact, come from the public sector through military and so on. Sure, capitalism does have some impact on this, of course, but I mean, not entirely. Nothing really entirely can be attributed to one thing.
And that's a fair point. Not anything can be attributed to one thing, but if you look at our capitalist system here in the United States, which still has many controls on it, so it's not a completely free market, this is where the innovation is coming from and has over the last 100 years.
Real quick, thank you, Mike R. Systemic. Yes, systemic institutions already circled on the board, guys. I'm waving off referring to the bingo card too much since we have a lot to cover here. So we're going to do one big roundup at the end. No, it's perfectly fine. We're going to do one big roundup at the end of the show.
Arguing, are we?
Not in a mean way. I don't find argument to be a bad word.
No, you're having a interaction of ideas.
Yeah.
There you go. See,
of course.
That's it. Yeah, which is perfectly fine.
The beauty of this country, isn't it?
Depends on whether or not you're on Twitter.
Depends on the day whether I am or not.
15 million households do not have enough food to eat. Yet, 30 to 40% of our food supply is wasted annually. Perfectly good food just thrown away because people couldn't pay money to buy it.
Time out. I'm sorry.
Stop it.
Do you know what the word food insecure means? Do you guys have any idea? Because they talk about it all the time. Food insecure, food insecure. Yeah. It literally just means that you had to make some change in your diet based on whether or not you could buy food or some other instance. That's what it says. It could literally mean that normally you buy Jif, but because Jif got more expensive, you had to buy Great Value peanut butter. Yeah. Literally, that's all it means. Now, does that mean nobody's actually starving a little bit? No. But it is such a bullshit term. It's so meaningless because of how vague it is. Do you know how many people die each year of malnutrition in the United States?
I do not.
None that it wasn't purposefully done to them by a parent. None. Food insecure. Indeed.
I've heard those stories before, mostly on true crime channels. All right.
There are 553,000 homeless people. Yet, luxury rental properties accounted for 87% of apartment construction in 2018.
So?
To be productive.
Yeah, Am I missing something in that I don't see the connection between making those 2 points next to each other?
Well, you're supposed to make cheaper housing instead of luxury housing, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Div.
Oh, real quick. Thank you, Keldrig, again. Finally, someone monk interrupts more than you. Yes, she's replacing me in the interruption game. Yes, for me, you weren't there for the totality of Lords of the Night, where I'd be reading stories and things, and interrupting me in the middle of saying something or reading a story became a recreational sport, both for the audience and for Satsu and Monkey. So.
It was an accident.
Yeah, I know. And thank you, Snubberth, so much. I worked in a grocery and food service. Money's not the only reason food gets wasted. Plus, do you want to give homeless, stale, or bad food to become a lawsuit by people like this?
And unfortunately, that is a worry that a lot of food goes thrown away for that reason.
Also goes thrown away just for the nature of shrinkage in the course of, in a food business. You're going to expect some kind of loss because stuff isn't bought. And just the way it is, you have to get rid of it. But that too. All right.
We need to produce things. But what is profitable is not always what we need and want.
Who's we? Define need, define want.
Do we...
Wait. It's not always what we need and want? If somebody wants it, chances are it's profitable.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you sell shit. People want it or need it.
I'll back up
That was a completely non. Wow.
Was that an argumentative non sequitur?
Mm-hmm.
For me, do you agree?
I kind of missed it, honestly.
Okay. I'll back up a second.
Because I think that the arguments are interesting, or they're just kind of basic, but also the presentation is kind of bland.
Okay, well, yeah, there's that too.
Before you do you mind if I grab a Streamlabs real quick? Frosted Glass, thank you. Marxism was a bad solution to early 19th century problems. It's an even worse solution to today's problems. We're not just coming out of feudalism anymore. We're you Neanderthals. Thank you, sir.
All right, so I backed it up a little bit. Let's hear her say it again, I think.
Div.
Well, make sure I don't want to miss any of it. Okay.
To be productive, we need to produce things. But what is profitable is not always what we need and want.
Okay. So, yay or nay on that being, this is one of the squares on the board. Argumentative non sequitur.
I would say yes. That's meaningless.
For me?
I couldn't tell you one way or another, honestly. I just don't see it as that much of a point trying to be made yet, at least.
All right, let's see if she carries it forward.
Do we make new medicines to cure diseases and produce enough for everyone who needs them? Or do pharmaceutical companies patent drugs to hike the prices and profit off of someone's desperate need to buy them in order to live? What fueled imperialism and colonization? Does our government violently intervene in societies abroad to fight for justice, or to secure more markets and resources? And who controls...
I'm gonna 100% agree with her here with regard to imperialism. It's rarely, it's almost always under the guise that it's for a greater good to invade some other country for democracy or so on. Like you can see it in Ukraine now. But there's no activity when it comes to a country like Yemen, for example, and quite the opposite. It's never for human rights if it's told to be. It's usually for some reason that is, and for economic gain, which further substantiates what she said earlier and what I said in the beginning of this, where the system isn't for you and I. No, it never was. It's for capitalists, corporations now. Because the term capitalist, even if you have a small business, you're not a capitalist anymore. Just a person that owns a business. but it's the really ultra wealthy that this system has always been helping. It's always protecting the top tier.
Real quick, thank you, Matt Barnes. What? Everything is a need or a want. If you don't need it or want it, you're not buying it.
Yep.
It's also true.
I gotta say, your fans totally valid if they hate me. I mean, we're different demographic. Totally cool. I see them talking smack. That's cool. I mean,
yeah.
I appreciate that you have me on. I think it's great that I can bring oppositional critique to what you or Ranting Monkey and your people here think, because
I don't know anything about this. See, here's the thing. On this subject, I'm a fucking babe in the woods. I don't know anything left, right, or center of it. I have some sort of, nascent layman's understanding of certain things. So I don't have a side on this particular debate, so to speak. If I was quizzed on some of these things, I'd be fumbling all over the place. Which I'm glad to have both of you on, because you know and have opinions on these things far more informed than I do. And of course, my chat knows that the whole point of this this entire series is to, as comedic and or entertaining as it can be to watch me melt down as somebody makes a ridiculous argument or something, ultimately I am trying to learn something and understand an argument even if I don't necessarily agree with it. So entertaining something without having to accept it, that's part of the theme here. So I'm not
said,
obviously...
I have to... Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I have to say, somebody in your chat said communists were imperialistic too. Yeah, communists were arguably worse than the U.S. or anything, especially in the USSR. And I don't think that if you're making the argument that the USSR was socialist, that's not true. They used the term socialism. They benefited from that term, which had an uprising in the early 20th century. They used it for internal propaganda, and us in the West, we used it as propaganda against the USSR because they call themselves socialists or socialist Marxists, whatever. But they were far from it. They were just basic totalitarianism. Of course, there are problems with imperialism in a totalitarian state. There's no question about it. I don't consider the USSR a beacon of that.
I've said this many, many times, and I'll stand by it to my dying day. Socialism and communism require authoritarianism because you have to have somebody to force people into this. This is what I was getting at earlier with who is the one that you have to have somebody in charge. If it's just, everybody gets to make their own decision about how this business is run, it's going to fall apart quickly.
You're right. That's anarchism. That's not socialism. And what you're more or less explaining is capitalism. There is always somebody in charge in capitalism.
All right, real quick. Thank you, Snubberth, referring to our speaker here. Honey, if you blame the pharmas, you better be pointing your finger at doctors and compliance in the same breath. They sell the product. That is also true. Not wrong, especially more than a few documentaries covering the opioid crisis and what led up to it prove that by a country mile. All right.
Our government, military, and...
Here, let me back up a little bit to save ourselves some context here.
And who controls our government, military, and intelligence when we wage these wars? The American people, or a small group of elites who profit off of U.S. military intervention?
Well, I thought, and of course maybe this is my naivete talking, the people doing it were elected representatives.
They are.
And that's not to say there aren't unelected, appointed cronyism and everything else going on, but at least that first layer, presumably, is people that the people selected to represent them, for better or for worse. So.
And who pays the trillions of dollars in taxes to fund these wars?
China. Oh, whoops, what? Oh, sorry.
Mostly very wealthy people and corporations, mostly.
Yeah, that too. And then the taxpayer.
Or the workers back home? Who gives their lives in these wars? The people who start them, or innocent young people who see joining the military as a more viable option than working a minimum wage job back home?
Okay, well, what's your solution then to international conflict? I mean, everything else aside, and the moral question of it, war, conflict, that's going to happen. That's human nature. I just wonder, is she going to offer some?
True. Far from
It's
it.
not?
I got to stop you. No, far from it. That is currently okay. You can argue that for generations, yeah, that has been true, with regard to like wars and so on. However, it's always based on some form of scarcity of some sort of resource or ideological issue. But even then, that has implications of like a form of scarcity that is underlying, and then the war or a conflict is justified through the ideology or something of that nature. But it's kind of, I've heard this argument and I don't know much about it, and I kind of want to look further into it. But so I can't really argue it too hard here. But I do want to say that there's this, I think it was John Mearsheimer. I believe he's a right-wing geopolitical scholar. And it's one of the things he says where liberalism, for example, assumes that the United States has to engage in interventionism in order to maintain peace, right? That's the argument that liberals make to justify their war. That's the ideological basis. However, the argument is that it's kind of a presumption that things will fall into chaos. If there is something that is, if the system was more so trying to make it so that we would cooperate rather than capitalizing off greed, for example, that might be the case. However, unfortunately, the global system essentially is predicated on scarcity, so we're kind of driven into further conflict. But just in a neutral state, human nature it would be an assumption to say that it is by nature violent. Because we know very little about what actual what do you call it? What unfettered human behavior would look like without intervention, I guess.
You have thousands of years of history of war and death and horrible acts by humans. Humans are, by nature, animals.
Of course, yeah.
Well,
Lots of animals coexist. I'm saying we understand things. There are ideologies that pit one another against each other in scarcity.
Well, I might have misspoken. If I did, I apologize. If I said war, I believe I tried to say conflict, because conflict is inherent to just getting up in the morning and needing to brush my teeth. I'm fighting against the nasty taste in my mouth. There's necessities that, as you say, scarcity, as things escalate from I just need something to I require something, on and on and on. Eventually, just for the sake of survival, there's going to be conflict. It's the nature of being alive. It's a universal constant. If there's too much of one thing on one side, there's got to be some kind of evening out, and that's going to lead to conflict, and violent or otherwise.
Of course.
Yeah. So I don't think that's avoidable. I don't think that there is a state in which all people could just live in peace.
No, I don't think that's what I'm saying in some sort of utopian way, but I don't think by default humans immediately turn to aggression or conflict.
No, not by default, but by inevitable necessity. I think it just ends up becoming that case. Circumstances arise.
I'll disagree and say by default, absolutely.
Well, you're making
all humans, no, but there's enough of them that there's always going to be conflict, and a whole bunch of people being happy is not going to stop the one guy who's being an ass.
All right, let's set this aside for a second. I got a couple of super chats. Snubber, thank you so much. We would protest more military misuse if the media was more transparent.
That's not untrue.
Yeah, that's. And thank you, Matt Barnes. Weird. When I was an employee, I always got my money back. As a business owner, I seem to keep paying in. As far as
talking about taxes.
Yeah, I was going to say about taxes. Okay. Let's keep going here.
Do we use our resources sustainably, or are we destroying the environment and depending on infinite economic growth despite living in a finite ecosystem?
Oh, now we're getting into environmentalism and climate change and such.
She's all over the place with this.
She really is. She's trying to cover all the bases in 15 minutes. I mean, I suppose I appreciate the macro sense of the presentation, but I just don't know if she's going to get to a point.
Think about the nature of the work people do all day.
Uh-huh.
Is it meaningful?
Does it have to be? In the sense that I can afford to feed my family? Yes. Is it that it's saving the world or curing cancer? Well, that's a secondary consideration to just being able to pay my bills and or set something aside for my kids when they go to college. So yes, it's meaningful. Honest day's work, as they say. I know it's a little bit idealistic, but anyway.
Just people on the clock for set hours making money for someone else. This system.
Wait,
Yeah.
she keeps doing this, making money for somebody else. You are profiting off your labor when you go to work. You are making money for yourself by doing that. She keeps trying to separate that from, the guy who owns the company, he makes more than you. So you're just making profit for somebody else. No, you're making profit for you, selling your labor at the agreed upon cost.
Yeah. I think again, snubber with climate change conflicts with your comfortable standards for everyone. They are trying to restrict air conditioning and coal. Are you talking to our speaker? I assume?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, comfort for everybody. You know, air conditioning comfort for somebody in Arizona is different from somebody in Minnesota. You know, things are going to be different and move differently place to place, circumstance to circumstance.
Can I make a shout out?
Of course.
Shout out to All Fuzzed Out in the chat.
Oh, hey, All Fuzzed Out. How's it going? True crime, represent.
Fuzzy.
Cannot persist without catastrophic consequences. In the early to mid 1900s.
Uh-oh. Did you jump the gun there for me? Is she going to
Is she going to talk about the labor movement in the 19th century?
Let's find out.
Poor people, working people, rose up in the masses.
Before we jump the gun on us. Oh, man, this is so cool.
Waging violent wars against the wealthy
I
owners,
did not watch this
the ruling
before.
class.
Sorry.
But these wars only happened in a few places around the world. Evidence suggests that if present trends continue, war is the likely outcome.
And you're for that, right? You're for this kind of war, right? The other kind of war is bad; people profit from them. But this kind of war is a preferred one. That's what I'm hearing.
I want to hear her evidence of this.
Saying.
Yeah. Sorry, Monkey.
I said I want to hear her evidence of this. What current trend? What current trend suggests this?
Okay.
Oppressed people will fight for freedom. What if, instead of allowing private owners to control our resources and
Never mind.
Let's see. So, yeah, okay, we'll get to the bingo card. I'm so ingrained reflex to look at the bingo card when I hear something that sounds like a square, but we'll go ahead.
use our workers to make profits, we organize our economic system democratically. We agree that the primary purpose of the economy should be to meet our material wants and needs. We all have a say in how the resources are managed. We organize.
Wait, time out. Because I dare say me and Formy here would disagree on how those should be managed. Who gets to decide? And what happens if he wins out and I lose out? Am I not being oppressed at that point?
Yes.
Well,
I don't.
I
Yeah,
think,
maybe.
What was she talking about exactly? Sorry, I was again.
She wants to. She's talking about. She's talking about democratizing the economy, so we vote on how things are done.
Right.
So if the problem is that some people right now feel oppressed because they're not getting their say, what happens when I don't get mine?
Right. This is a problem I personally have with systems that are kind of half-baked, like a form of democratic socialism like this, where it it still has some sense of barrier where, you know, one dominant group is making a decision for a large group of people, for example, versus a system which would, like I said, like an anarchist system where you could have a capitalist society. You could have multiple types of economy, you know, a poly economy sort of situation. Like if you didn't like the anarchist system, like an anarcho-syndicalist system, but there was still an anarchist system, a capitalist system that you could opt into, that would be a possibility, and everyone could potentially be happy with whatever system they're in.
Real quick, thank you, Snubberth again. The oppressed argue that Teslas are better live in homes on Twitter with Obama phones. Let's be real, their allies will be fighting.
I don't know if that makes sense, Ranting Monkey, at least from this is, I guess, a radical perspective, but that's a possibility as well. Like I said, this is a half-baked idea that she's presenting.
All right, I'll back up a couple seconds here.
And how the resources are managed. We organize labor so that workers can elect their leaders and own the means of production. We utilize excess resources and excess labor power for innovation.
I'm sorry, I gotta say, this is like some edgelord, like poli-sci 101 socialism.
Yeah, it really is.
It's very basic, half-baked. I mean, we're disagreeing from opposite ends here, but that's just what it comes across as, somebody who actually believes in some of this stuff.
This is somebody who has read Marx 101 and stopped there.
Yeah. Okay.
We will not have liberty and justice until we have economic rights. Americans love liberty and justice.
Yes, Monkey.
I'm just laughing at it. Keep going.
Okay.
Until it is called socialism. The ideas that I just described are socialist. Socialism has been put in a box with the label bad on it so that people won't bother to look inside. But I looked inside that box.
Time out.
And
Why is that, sweetheart? Is it because they heard the ideas and went, oh, that's horrible? Or has it been tried repeatedly and led to the death of hundreds of millions of people?
Well, that's like exactly what I was saying earlier, is that what you're like the word socialism has been twisted in so many different ways that it essentially doesn't have one meaning anymore. What you're explaining is socialism in the sense of like the American propaganda sense of socialism, which is totalitarian Stalinism or whatever, Leninism, Bolshevism. And where in the USSR they would be talking about socialism, it would be what they considered them, or at least what they called themselves. But socialism existed prior to that. Like, again, what I was saying, in the 19th century, when there was this uprising of small factions and so on. And it actually benefited our current society. You know, socialism is a pretty large part of American history in certain ways, small ways. Obviously, we were never entirely socialist, but socialists fought for workers' rights that we currently live under.
So, just as a similar example, so the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is totally all those things because that's the title, and the United Soviet Socialist Republic is obviously that thing because of its title, except how it works internally in reality. Is that the kind of the deal there as far as like
exactly
being...
pretty much because it was an up and coming hot button word, you know, in that time, and why not benefit from something that sounds like it's for the people? It's essentially just propaganda like the rest of the USSR.
Yeah. Thank you, Frosted Glass. When I see a female commie, I think bad box. Womp.
Nice.
Womp. Womp. All right.
I found that the problem is not that people fundamentally disagree with socialist principles. The problem is that people have been taught to hate a word without ever defining it.
Well,
you might notice that nothing I've said.
Yeah, well, Yeah, it's like it's almost like I have a couple of experts here. It's like you
Oh
can
my
trounce her
gosh.
already. Yeah.
Sorry,
Well, I mean,
sorry.
in relative, no, that was I wasn't being sarcastic. In relative terms, I mean, she's like you say, Marxism 101 student over here, and you guys have done more thinking on this than it sounds like she has. That's all. I was complimenting you. Can you take a compliment? I don't know. You can't.
Thanks.
Said. Sounds like anything you've heard about socialism. It does not refer to centralized authoritarian control.
It absolutely does, because it has to. It is not human nature for people of their own free will to go to work and do a boring ass job that they hate just for the good of society. That is not within human nature. In order to do something like that, to have your communes, to have them actually work, you need somebody there making sure people do what they're supposed to do. It becomes more authoritarian because they don't have to do work because they're still going to be taken care of. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
One of these days, I tell you.
We have been given many misleading narratives about socialism from
Yeah,
the
never
wealthy
been
owners
tried.
of corporations and media companies who have a lot to lose when we discover a more viable alternative economic system. We spend the
Time out.
majority.
Pause it. No. A more viable system based on fucking what? Where has it ever worked ever once in human history on more than a small, tiny little commune? What country has excelled under any form of socialism?
For me,
Cuba, not the best example, but they in certain ways they have excelled. Not necessarily. I guess it depends on your idea of success, obviously, but
Running
and
water
even
in
then,
homes
even
would
then,
be
I wouldn't
success.
exactly call that a purely socialist idea. But they have had some successes for sure. There have been successes, but not necessarily in terms of abundance or anything like that. So, like I said, like you're kind of right in that sense, but not exactly, because the idea of helping one another is inherently, you were saying a second ago that it's not human nature to do something for the greater good of society, and I don't think that's why socialist countries have failed, because that has been where their successes are, in my opinion.
I think that the instinct for cooperation is more common than the instinct to desire conflict. Let me clarify that, because if we were all nothing but conflict, we wouldn't be here right now. There has to be some sense of a desire to cooperate and find some sort of equilibrium amongst our neighbors, or else, we wouldn't have gotten across the deserts collectively otherwise in history and so on. So on that point, I'll just try to clarify my stance on it. But I don't think you can. But that's the thing, is like one person becomes the point of conflict, and then that's the conflict. It only takes a little bit to set everything off, and that's always going to happen because, like Monkey said, there's always going to be that segment of the population that doesn't care and is able to convince others who want to cooperate, and they think they're cooperating, except they're eventually deferring to a higher power, as in the individuals or people that want conflict or seek the benefits thereof for themselves. Thank you, Snubbirth. Cuba put AIDS patients in lifelong lockdown to pad its low spread numbers. They had to be shamed by the global community. They are not good examples.
That is one example of how something like that wouldn't be a success, obviously. However, they have had successful literacy programs which they also had spread to Nicaragua in the 80s. In fact, they were revered by the global community at how successful their literacy programs and certain healthcare programs were.
All right, let's keep going.
Of our waking hours working. In a democracy, we insist we have an inherent right to have a say over the choices that affect our daily lives. Democratic socialism insists we apply those democratic principles to our economic system for an economy run by and for the people. Inevitably, we wonder how this sort of system will manifest. Let's think about energy. We need energy in the form of electricity to do just about anything these days. Let's focus on fossil fuels, which we burn to make electricity. I can imagine no reason why one person nor small group of people deserves to own an entire oil deposit or mineral deposit. No one today was around 300 or 150 million years ago when organic materials settled to the bottom of lakes and oceans and through heat and pressure formed oil.
I have a feeling I need to pause here.
No, let her keep going.
Okay.
This is
No
cute.
one did the work to make that oil. No one does work to make coal in a coal mine. All
Stop.
human beings.
No one does work to make coal. You know, extraction is work.
Yeah,
The
and she's
technology, the
ignored
labor
that.
to extract it. That's how you make it. That's how you manufacture it. Coal isn't just ready to go as soon as you dig it out of the ground. Oil isn't just ready to go for different things just because you pump it out of the ground. What is... Okay,
Are you
again.
being sarcastic?
No, she's not.
No, she's not.
She's making the argument, since nobody actually physically made the oil, then nobody should own the oil.
Yeah.
That's a pretty terrible argument.
It's a very bad argument.
Were born on this planet as equals. No one person should own an entire natural resource and be able to personally profit off of extracting it.
Hey, my humor is a natural resource, and I am the owner of it. No, is that terrible? Okay, sorry, I apologize.
We can, instead, demand a vote to take public ownership of our resources.
And
we
then
can
what?
make electricity affordable and nationalize the energy grid. We can allocate economic gains to fund public infrastructure development. We can agree to transition to 100% renewable energy and apply these same concepts to solar, wind, or geothermal. On the front of labor, we can have 100% worker-owned businesses. And for more mobile workers, we can develop...
Can I say something? I'm sorry.
Please go ahead first.
I was gonna say I just found out that where I am currently, that there's a worker-owned brewery, and I thought that was pretty cool. But they didn't call it worker-owned. I think they called it employee-owned or something like that. But I thought that was pretty fascinating.
There's a few of them
Nothing like
around
here.
the country. Worker-owned businesses that they've started popping up, and this is, to her point, there's nothing in our capitalist society that is stopping workers from making a business. I'm just making the argument that the guy who built it shouldn't have to give it to you because you work there. And there's a push. Where the fuck was that? Just read about it the other day. Some factory or something. They're like, it was the bar. It was a bar where they like, give it to us or we're not working here anymore. And the owner went, all right, I guess I'm shutting down. They did nothing. It literally had just opened, and the workers were like, we deserve it.
Yeah, and
Go make your own
in one
bar.
way, for example, like, just as you can't force somebody to be in a capitalist system, you can't force, or you shouldn't be able to force somebody to be in a socialist system either. So, because that also is a hierarchy that is unfortunate for the people, like you said. What if I don't want to be in that system? You know. So again, this is kind of coming back as a criticism from a further left perspective, that she's creating an opinionated hierarchy in one way by forcing people to be a part of some socialist system.
Should the thing then be like, instead of trying to manage the entire economy of a country, let's say allow businesses to operate internally as their own economic or trade system, essentially?
Well, I don't know about that exactly. I haven't thought that one through personally, but I do think that we have enough technology and resources in terms of communication, and we've evolved technologically and in terms of other ways like psychologically over the last 100-some years, that we could essentially pull something like that off, where if you want to opt into working for somebody else, you can. But also, like Ranting Monkey was saying, within a certain system, a centralized system, you could have multiple systems, like an anarchist bookstore or something, which does anarchist bookstores or breweries, they do exist. It's just that sometimes people are relegated, I think would be a strong argument, or dependent on shitty jobs that do pay shit, whether just to survive. And that's unfortunate always. Doesn't matter what system it's in.
Yeah.
Collective bargaining systems that determine hours, benefits, and set wages across entire sectors, not just employer by employer. This will ensure our people are paid a fair wage that compensates them for the work that they do. We can take back the freedom to work reasonable hours and spend more time doing what we enjoy.
Yes, Monkey.
Nothing.
Okay.
The hours worked haven't changed all that much in the last 50 years.
We can work so that we only need one job. People can choose a job they like, not just the job that they can get to make ends meet.
Stop.
Really?
Who's taking the job as a sanitation worker? Who likes that job? Who's going and cleaning out the sewers when they get all messed up with diaper wipes and tampons? Who's doing that out of the love of the job?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's the necessity plus the compensation.
But those are the people that are also getting paid the worst.
Often, yes, unfortunately.
Yes, that is true. That is true. I mean, it varies. I've known people who worked in the waste disposal that clear pretty well, but of course it all depends on your personal situation. Do you have a family? Do you have a mortgage, etc.? But it all depends.
See, this is the argument I got into when I debated Bronx Bomber about this stuff. Because he's like, everybody will be able to just do the job they want. And I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Somebody has to do the ugly, hard, nasty jobs.
Yeah. Snubber, thank you so much. Janitor here. If it wasn't for the pay, I wouldn't be here. Well, that goes for most jobs. Very few people find a job that's like tailored just for them or is their dream or anything else. Yeah, Monkey's the exception. Yeah, he's got a great job. He gets to talk for a living.
That's true.
Yeah.
We can have a universal single-payer healthcare system that will one day be seen as fundamental as our public education system. We can make broadband available for everyone in a similar way to how we once worked to make roads and highways a public good.
Pause it for a second. Who really loves laying broadband wire?
Oh, I thought you were going to say who loves laying pipe, and I was going like, I do. No, I was like,
I like laying pipe. No, because I don't disagree. I mean, broadband, it should be. I don't know if necessarily government subsidized, but it's definitely to the point where we should be able to get it to everyone. Especially
it should be a public resource. Certainly, at this point, it's ubiquitous to everything anybody does in even the lowest tier of society at this point. So yeah, it should be.
But she just told us, everybody will be able to do a job they want. I know lots of people. I've never once heard somebody go, what I'm going to do on my day off? Just for the fun of it, I'm going to go lay a whole bunch of wire underground.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Got a super chat from Frosted Glass. Thanks so much. So all mascots in theme parks would be furries. Great. I'm here because I'm doing what I love. Yeah, very good. All right. All right, let's. Only got a few minutes left before we get our ceiling here, so let's keep going.
Internet has given us unprecedented access to information
Most of it bad, but anyway.
and capacity to communicate.
Yeah, mostly in memes.
We can make it more profitable for the few by making it more exclusive, but everyone can benefit from making it accessible.
Yes, this is true.
Human progress does not happen when we creatively make more advanced luxuries to be enjoyed by the people at the top. Human progress happens when we raise the bottom line. We can allocate capital towards what is most valuable for humanity, instead of allowing private owners to allocate all of our resources towards what will yield the highest return in dollars for them.
All of our resources?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it all depends
She
on
owns
what
a
we're
lot of
talking
shit.
about. I guess so.
We can organize our labor and resources however we want to.
Why aren't you a zillionaire?
You know, I heard this argument, or I read it somewhere. I can't remember where it was recently, and I thought it was pretty compelling. In a sense, like somebody said something along the lines of like, what would happen if the government didn't exist to collect our tax dollars to make the roads? You know, there's 7 billion people on this earth, and 300 some million in this country, and we're just going to sit around and wait for the government to come take our tax dollars so they can pave the roads? Or if they were to disappear, would we have the knowledge and find the resources to figure it out on our own? You know? And yeah, that is an extreme example and on an incredibly massive scale, but, you know, it is kind of, indicative of where the power actually lies is in the hands of the people that do create the roads, and which is just ordinary people.
But we are told the tale that the economy is an autonomous entity. It regulates and controls itself. This is simply not true.
Well, she's right about that. It's not true.
Who says that?
Yeah, I know, but that's the thing. I don't remember anybody telling me that. It's like it's an entity unto itself.
Anyway, okay.
Okay.
The economic system is comprised of human actors making decisions.
You don't say.
Economic systems are not something we can see, touch, or feel.
Uh-huh.
They exist only in our minds.
Yes, as ideas, but as actions and results, those... okay.
The economic system is comprised of many individuals thinking a certain way about the economy and acting accordingly.
You know that this dollar bill only has value because you believe it does? It's actually nothing and means nothing. So it's all just made up. Uh-huh.
So are
So then,
nations,
how do we-
realistically, but this
everything.
symbolic nature, yeah, exactly. It does have meaning because, and we know this like scientifically, that meaning actually, that through cognitive processes, though it's not a material fact, it is a real thing. It serves multiple purposes, both for memory and other actual things like money and nations.
Yeah, it's like it's quantum physics is what it is, because everything's quantum physics.
We change our economic system. We have a new and better idea about what the purpose of our economy should be. We behave differently, redefine the norms, rewrite laws, make new policies, and make the change. Human beings have the capacity to act as a collective.
Uh-huh.
We have yet to devise structures for economic decision-making that is democratic.
Can I say something? I hate the word collective. It's just especially in the U.S., which is just littered with anti-communist propaganda, and a lot of it is legit because communism obviously doesn't work. But just find a different word. You know, you're just going to trigger like half the people in the crowd when you say collective.
Monkey?
I don't necessarily disagree with them that it'll trigger half the people, but it is what they mean when they say it, because they do believe in basically a commune for the entire country, and it doesn't work out that way.
All right.
It is time to devote ourselves to a new direction for the U.S. economy
Okay.
and to adopt a better economic system. We can wait until our society destabilizes, or we can band together.
Don't you want destabilization? You just praised workers rising up into wars. Did I miss something? Okay.
For a political revolution
Yes.
that revitalizes.
Which will only be a political revolution of words. There will be no violence or anything else in the process.
Somebody in your chat
I-
says something that I found interesting. I think the name is Zeke. It says he or
Yes.
she says, "Yes, we have the capacity to act as a collective. We also have the capacity to act as individuals. We can act in several ways. Doesn't mean one way works all the time." And I agree. Yeah, and that's the main goal of some of these ideas. Although I don't agree with the argument that she's making exactly, I do generally agree with the fact that it's not a few people that should be controlling capital or resources. It should be more so in the hands of everybody else, and that would be the collective. But that is to increase the individual autonomy of everybody. It's not to live in some freak commune like it's the 1960s. Because, I mean, who doesn't hate the idea of that? But
Lots
you
of
can
people.
work as a collective to increase individual autonomy. And that has been done numerous times throughout history.
Okay. We're almost done. Oh, wrong button.
I prefer revolution.
No shit.
No, yeah, no kidding. Oh, and she does the fist raise at the end. Okay, all right. Okay, well, let's put our debating minds ahead to the bingo card real quick and try to go over some of these before we have to wrap up. And if you guys have to take off in a minute or three for time's sake, by all means, and I'll carry forward. So, opinions. Guys, we're going to go over the bingo card one more time ourselves, and then I'll take arguments for squares to be circled from you guys. Anecdote that probably never happened.
No.
I don't think she gave us an anecdote. I mean, she did quote history, but I don't think she was... Her interpretation might be off. I don't think she made up anything that was and then everybody claps kind of situation.
No, there was no anecdote in there that I remember.
Self-vilification or wretchedness. No. She didn't make herself like I'm part of the problem. I don't think at any point. The classic example of that is somebody gets up on a stage and says, I contribute to white supremacy because I am white. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Weightless example. Can I count the ways? Like, what are you talking about? What does this have to do with anything? Or just not following through on something and just sort of leaving it up
There was weightless examples in there. She gave us that the
homeless thing.
Yeah, it wasn't the homeless one that was weightless. It was the what was it? Food insecurity.
Oh, okay. Word salad.
Does weightless mean that she just didn't present the example?
No, a weightless example weightless example means you bring up something as an example which does not in any way actually benefit your presentation or argument.
Oh, there was one thing that was really just not... I don't think it was the best possible way. I don't remember what it was, but I remember it not being good.
It could also be something where you bring something up, but you don't follow through enough that it makes any sense or any advantage to your case. So, now word salad. Now, being the non-economic literate person here, everything sounded like word salad to me. What do you guys think?
I think it was very 101. I think that she didn't get into it enough, so it would be hard for her to be exhibiting word salad, I guess.
No, I agree. There no real word salad in there. She
Okay.
Didn't even try to go too deep on anything.
Leaves out vital context. I think that's reflexive.
Yep, she did that.
Okay, and not to belabor the joke, but collectivize its own demographic.
Oh, yep, absolutely did that.
Collectivize his own demographic. Do you mean that she lumps her own side into a general?
So if somebody comes out and says, "As a woman of color," etc., etc., or something like that. So is she, at some point, did she make some aspect of herself representative of everybody? I mean, I guess in the sense of just being a person, but
definitely as a leftist, yeah. I mean,
okay.
She used a whole lot of weed.
I disagreed with a lot of things that she said because I don't think that she was radical enough.
Okay. White supremacy. She never really talked about race. So that doesn't play. A list, now for reference sake, this is like somewhere in the presentation we're looking for like a formal list, like I have 3 steps for you to do X, Y, Z, or maybe a bullet point thing on a slide or something. I don't know that she ever like.
She didn't use a slide, but at the very end she listed all the things we can do if that counts. That's your call on that. But she did list.
Yeah, no, I've always struggled with this one because just listing things, it's a list, but like a key element of the presentation is here are the 6 ways I do that kind of thing. That's usually what I'm looking for, is that somebody's bringing up like a list of steps. The element of the presentation revolves around in some way, shape, or form a list of things, and just saying things in order doesn't necessarily, to me, constitute an official list. I know it's a little stickler for it, but I don't know.
And I hear what you're saying, but she did specifically. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this.
Okay, that's true. Okay, yeah, no, you know what? You're right. That is true. Okay, I will cede the point on that one, and that's seed, not seed. Privilege. Certainly, it was implied between the differential of power between the owners and the workers. So I think that's.
I would say she danced around it, but I wouldn't say she actually ever did it.
Well, okay. At a certain point, I'm completely happy to circle squares on the basis of aggregate notions within the course of the presentation, not necessarily. If she says the word explicitly, then yes, we're set. But talking about how the billionaires have all this and they can make all the decisions and that to me at least implies the notion of privilege versus the unprivileged.
Fair enough.
So that's where I'd be coming from on that one. And by the way, both of you, if I say something, I'm gonna circle this, and you guys are like, no, that doesn't count. Just speak up. I'm fine for
I am
opposition.
not shy.
Sales pitch for product or service. Well, is socialism a product or service?
She made a sales pitch for her brand of socialism, but not actually a product or service.
Yeah. Does it count? Does an economic system count as something that you make a sales pitch for a product?
I don't think so.
Yeah, this wasn't somebody standing up there going like, I have this app or something. So.
No, that would be really weird and really terrible culmination of this video.
Yeah. Plays victim. I think at least in association with humankind against capitalism.
I'd say that's a pretty legitimate victimhood for a lot of people.
Okay, so yeah, that's the other thing too, is playing victim versus actually. If you're actually a victim, that's not a playing thing. So
the argument she was making is more so like exploited workers. I would say that's a legitimate victimhood.
Monkey.
I'm going to disagree on it being legitimate, but I don't think she actually played victim herself, really, except for in a collective.
Okay.
So that it wasn't her specifically,
Okay, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase.
Not that I remember. I would have laughed at it.
Yeah, I don't think I heard anything that I hadn't heard before somewhere. She argued over the definition of socialism, but she didn't give it her own brand name or anything. Patriarchy. They didn't really talk about the gender wars at all.
She was pretty focused on class.
Yeah. Okay. So and feminism as well doesn't count because you didn't go there. Mind reading assumes motives.
What the hell's that on this thing?
That's right below free space.
Oh. I mean, technically yes, because like they only do it for profit. But I think there's a good way to you could make a very good case that yes, they're in business for profit. So, no, not really.
For me.
Oh, sorry, I missed that one. I was paying attention that there was some bot in your chat, and I was kind of laughing at that.
Oh yeah, I have a new bot that loves my channel now. That's coming in almost every stream now to advertise for porn. So yeah.
That's what I saw. Yeah.
So the question is, over the course of the presentation, was she mind reading and or assuming motives of either the people that she was making examples of or elsewise? What do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, I think inherently, institutionally, the motives of capitalists and their workers are implicit. You know, it's wage slavery. But I don't think she was assuming that. She's just pointing that out, that there is a dynamic there. Whether it's just or not, whether you believe it's just or not, there's a different...
I think it absolutely, because she didn't give anybody's statement, so she is assuming it, but I think it's a fair assumption.
Okay. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, she didn't talk about DEI in the classic sense. She talked about equity as far as like collectivizes, everybody gets what they need, et cetera, et cetera. That might be an argument. Real quick, thank you, Frosted Glass. Did you know there are horny singles in your area?
I'm one of them.
Yeah, I'm sitting here right now. So yes, I'm aware. My area, my computer room right now. Yeah, I mean, I could sort of stretch, but she didn't bring up like DEI or those kind of notions. She was talking about
hit the E. Yeah.
Yeah. Marginalization. Yeah, the workers versus the owners in concept, if not in quotation. So I don't think there's any argument over that one. Argumentative non sequitur.
I would say yes.
When?
Going back to her example that made no damn sense.
Oh, the needs and wants and profit, etc.
Yeah, the needs and
There
wants.
was something that really fell through. I don't remember what it was, but I remember that it was really not a good argument, and it was kind of funny.
There was even one point where I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for her argument on this, and there was nothing that came with.
Yeah, that could also be. See, I always have a trouble like. I know there's a difference between a weightless example and an argumentative non sequitur, but they always seem to like almost conjoin at times, and I'm wondering if I need to combine those squares at some point.
You might need to.
Yeah. Childhood or family anecdote. Surprisingly enough, she never brought up her own upbringing or anything else. So, yeah, that doesn't... contradicts own point or argument.
Yes.
Yeah, the war thing. It's like, oh, we have all these wars and everything else. By the way, here are some wars that I appreciate.
Well, she also, I mean, near there at the end where she's talking about you'll only have to do the work that you have to do. By the way, we're going to have to lay a shit ton of cable.
Right, yeah.
I would say that's contradictory.
Yeah. Benevolent condescension. That's tough because she's a true believer, so I don't know that she's being condescending necessarily.
I didn't find any of it condescending. I disagreed with all of it.
Right,
None of it was really condescending.
Yeah, I didn't get a sense of condescension because
She's pretty sincere.
Yeah. And lastly, microaggressions or unconscious bias. That really never came up.
No.
She was talking on higher level stuff. I have been known at times, as I said before, to stretch some of the squares requirements for the sake of certain things, but in this case, I think I'll let it stand pat. Okay, so we've reached an hour and a half on the... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just about to bring that up. I said, before you go to the audience, do you mind if I step away?
Yep, Monkey, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Guys, Monkey's link to his channel's in the description, as well as his Twitter account. If you don't know anything about Ranting Monkey, you can listen to him about 10 minutes from now when he starts his own show over on his channel. And I won't feel offended if you go over there, although I might make fun of you in your absence.
No, you guys stay here till it's done. For me, it was really nice to meet you, dude, and I appreciate the fact we were able to disagree without anybody having to yell. So I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. I think it's
Now, chat, if you have arguments for squares left to be yet to be circled, put them in the chat now. Tag me in those comments if you would be so kind. And just a programming note, this will not be, whoops.
anyone there? I think we lost Scribe. Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Can you?
Okay,
can you guys
audience
hear me?
can. Yeah, I can hear you. As soon as Monkey left, everything snapped.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if anyone could hear me or not.
I don't know what the heck happened, guys. As soon as Monkey screwed up my whole stream. That jerk. How dare he? Okay, well, let's try this again. You guys let me know if you can... what the heck? No, not that. I don't want to share that. Here. Hold on a second here. I don't know what's going on. Something screwy's going on, guys. Live TV, I apologize. Not intentional. What? Okay. I don't know what happened, guys. Something screwy's happening with StreamYard right now. I'm going to turn off the overlays and everything because something's up, and I don't know. But,
what's going on exactly?
I don't know. I have no idea. That's never happened before. It's like all of a sudden Monkey left and then the stream all broke. Let's see. You guys can hear us now? Okay.
I think
all right. Well, I'm going to... Yeah, I have no idea why that happened. Why can't I share the tab? Chrome tab. Okay, there we go. Is that going to do it? Okay, we're kind of back now. There we go. All right, let's keep going. Inform me if you have to leave too. I apologize. I don't know what the hell happened there, but
yeah,
guys, if you have...
I think I'm going to head out
okay.
slowly, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, thanks so much for coming. Really appreciate your participation and insight. And guys, if you don't know about Inhuman Form, go check out his channel. Links in the description. He's got videos on society, economy, crime, all types of stuff, and even death metal. You like death
can
metal?
I say one thing?
Of course.
I noticed through the chat, I found the chat really interesting through this because obviously these ideas are almost foreign to us these days, but they're pretty average progressive ideas to the rest of the world. I know it's easily disagreeable for a lot of people, but I urge everybody to kind of like look these things up, especially like anarchism in the 19th century and those workers' movements I was mentioning, because it's important stuff to know one day, you know, for one reason or another. Anyway, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, dude. And yeah, guys, go check out his channel if you haven't already. And hope to have you on again sometime in the future.
All right, yeah, see ya.
Yeah, have a good night, guy. Take care. All right, guys. Well, then it's just you and me. Just you and me, kid. Sorry for the... I don't know what the hell happened there, but that was just live television. So any other arguments for squares to be circled? Let me know. Let me scroll up a bit in case I missed something here. Frosted Glass, Scribelight, benevolent condescension treats non-rich people like idiots and victims that she needs to rescue. Is that condescension, though? Because it sounded more like she was, like I said, she's a true believer, so she feels kinship. Is that condescension? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. But yeah, anybody who's going over to Monkey in the morning as soon as he starts up, let him know that his leaving crashed the entire stream for a second there. Just tell him, it was the ultimate interrupt. Let him know that he has achieved interruptus plaid, like from Spaceballs. He went plaid on the interruptions. Let's see. ZZ Adawari, I have to put PVC over my cords or my monkey would chew them. Just how monkeys are. That is a occupational hazard for a monkey. You don't want your monkey to start. Don't shock the monkey, or let the monkey shock itself. Let's see. Ostsan, Scribelight assumes motive of pharmaceutical companies by stating they take out patents just to mark up drugs instead of recuperating research costs. Yeah, let's not say the pharmaceutical industry as a whole isn't a little sinister in more way than one, but assuming that every pharmaceutical company does it, I guess that's technically true. And it's not a bingo square, so I will allow it, as it were. Let's see, who else? Frostgus, just because she believes it doesn't mean it's not condescension. See, I didn't sense her being condescending, right? I mean, set up against arguments or facts to the contrary, you might disagree, but being condescending in and of herself, I didn't get that sense. That's the thing. It's a differential between disagreeing, saying something that might be too pie in the sky and dumb. It's hard to tell if it was condescending though, but I don't know. If you have more of an argument for it, give him a shot. But Keyverdam, Scribe doesn't deserve to be interrupted. We need a revolution. Yes, rise up, Scribe tribe. Yes, rise up and go tell Monkey he's a doo-doo head or something. I don't know. Munkus interruptus. Yeah, that too. I'm tapping out. Time for bed. Bye, Angry. Get good sleep. Have a good day tomorrow. And Eric Peters found the owner of the bot domain. Ooh. Probably alert YouTube to that one. Chicago Mite Scribe Tribe. I've heard that before. I've heard people in the chat use that before, and I couldn't think of another way to refer to all y'all. But I'm not going to start coming onto the show and saying, "What is up, Scribe Nation?" or something stupid like that. And that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Well, I don't see any arguments for other squares to be circled, and I feel like Monkey and Formy were fairly definitive on most of them. And I think just the talk in and of itself was so focused on that one subject and didn't really deviate. There were elements, obviously, that we can find for the sake of the bingo card, but I don't know that there's anything else to cover. So I'll give another 2 minutes here to make it an even 15 at the middle of the second half of the hour, if anybody has anything to say. But as I was going to say earlier, programming note, there will be another TED Excellence this coming Thursday, as usual, at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I have no idea what it'll be yet. I don't imagine I'm going to have a guest or guests, but it's not impossible. Nothing's impossible, except, a functional communist society. And as always, on Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, will be the Sunday stream where I'll talk about a thing and a stuff. And if I do any more article reads, hopefully I won't stumble over my own words as many times as I did. Holy cats. ZZ Adawari, I'm surprised we missed a bingo. I'm not so much. When you have a talk that's focused on a very specific thing and the person is not like talking about themselves a lot, it's easy to miss a bingo. And of course, it's just the configuration of the card too. If we were doing card A or C, we might have a bingo or two. Who knows? But hey, it does happen. And Tony Giff, the cards will mean nothing if you mark squares on questionable circumstances, Scribe. Well, that's it too. I mean, the rules are a little nebulous here and there, but there's got to be some controls. There has to be someone in charge. There has to be someone making the decisions. And there you go. And Chicago Mike, can we just get white supremacy for no reason other than getting a double bingo? No. Nope, I'm afraid there are rules, and rules must be followed. Otherwise, our society would collapse. and the card and all these discussions and argumentations would lose their legitimacy. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that to you. That would be me hurting you, hurting me, hurting you. But with that, everyone, I'm going to call this one to a close. Once again, want to thank Ranting Monkey and In Human Form for joining me. Again, take a look at their channels if you don't know about them already. Links are in the description. And follow them on Twitter so you can find out all the exciting things that Monkey has to say in a day about everything. Because he has a lot to say about everything. Formy is more conservative in that regard, but he says interesting things too from time to time. So go check him out. And moderators, thank you so much for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved, even in disagreement with a guest, and certainly when it comes to bots. I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate your labor. Thank you so much. Everybody who donated, thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity, either to myself or to those GoFundMes at the top of the chat box. Really do appreciate it. And given people's generosity tonight, I will be paying this forward very soon. Won't necessarily clarify how for the sake of anonymity and such, but I will be donating some funds to a charitable cause in the near future. Thank you so much. And everyone, again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your attendance, participation, and argumentation. I hope you all have a good rest of your Monday. I want to say Thursday. I'm so ingrained. Rest of your Monday, good rest of your week. I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.